Well, welcome to FinTech Impact. I'm your host, Jason Pereira. Today on the show, we have a three-time guest that actually holds the record, the first time ever to come on the show under three different brands, even though it was two different companies. So it's a bit of a weird one. And you can hear him laughing. So yes, the return guest is Aaron Klein, ex Riskalyze / Nitrogen, and now Contio. And Contio is a platform that aims to make meetings, lack of a better term, suck less. So
There you go.
let's have a meeting, Aaron. And with that, here's my interview with Aaron Klein. Aaron, thanks for taking the time today.
Hey, great to be with you. Third time. Crazy. I didn't know I was going to set a record today.
Well, no, you had that really weird, unique distinction. I think I'm going to put like a wall of fame of people who've done random things on this podcast. And
There you go.
if we get to 5 times, it'd be like SNL. I'll send you a jacket.
I do not expect, it's so funny. You start a company like Riskalyze, and that was an amazing journey. I ran that company for 12 and a half years. And obviously, we're so grateful to have had the opportunity to serve so many incredible financial advisors. And then after we sold the company to HG Capital in 2021, one of the things that they really wanted to do was explore a lot of different ways to broaden beyond just risk. And our board chair was demonstrated a lot about her track record in her prior company and how a rebrand changed a lot of those things. And so it became a big part of the strategy there and to just signal broader capability. And so ultimately the decision was made to rebrand the company as Nitrogen. And I will just say executing a rebrand is no small feat, especially with a company that had as entrenched of a brand as Riskalyze. And so that was a very, very interesting thing to do, particularly when I was in the middle of working on my successor and who that was going to be.
I know, because
Timing.
I interviewed you for the second time when you were under Nitrogen.
Okay.
Right before you announced you were stepping down, and it aired after. And I was like, I remember reading out like, dude, we talked last week. Come on.
Yeah. Those are always interesting things because HG was so supportive and our board was so supportive, and we're just great to work with. But it was very important to them that the news not break in any way, shape, or form. So I was like under a penalty of many bad things if for some reason that news broke. So there were so many people. It was really funny. Here's a funny backstory. Okay. There were right before that, guess what? Right before I did that interview with you was Fearless, or the Fearless Investing Summit. Okay. I'm having to walk around all these customers, 1,000 of my closest friends, and I can't talk about this. And the only group at that point that knew was a small handful of people on our senior leadership team. And about, 4 weeks out from Summit is when I called each of the people on the senior leadership team one by one and just said, hey, here's the decision I made and here's what we're going to do. And Justin Boatman, who you know well, one of the things that he would always do maybe about 6 to 8 weeks out from Fearless is he would go with another one of our people, Dan Bolton, and would sit in a room for a week and draft the keynote. Okay. And then they would send me this big long draft and I would spend hours rewriting it into partly my voice and just what I wanted to communicate and all these different things. So this is like the most important thing we're going to do at Fearless, right? So I get on the phone with Justin to let him know that, hey, we're going to do this transition. We're going to announce it in November and we're passing the baton to this new CEO we've hired and you'll get to meet him soon. And I'm telling him all this. And he literally says to me on the call, and I'm not kidding you, this is what he says. He goes, oh, thank God. And I'm like, we've worked together for a long time. Were you that excited? You're that excited that I'm leaving? And he goes, oh, no. It's not like that. He goes, I just read the first draft of your edits on the Fearless keynote. And I was like, oh my Lord, he has cancer. And I'm like, really? It was that schmaltzy? And
Oh my God.
He's like, yeah, you got to dial that down a little bit. It was a little bit too nostalgic and look back. And I'm so glad that you're okay. That's great. So anyway, there's the backstory. His first thought was, oh, thank God he doesn't have cancer.
Oh my God. Hilarious. And I will say this much. I remember after you announced it, you had this look on your face during our interview. I could tell something was being left out. You had something I couldn't get out of you. And I was just like, something's going on. And then when it happened, I'm like, dude.
I feel like in general, I'm one of the more transparent people on earth. So it is very hard when I'm required to keep a secret. That is for sure.
All right.
Very hard.
Now that we've gone down memory lane and how funny that entire. Let's talk about the new gig.
Yes.
Tell us about Contio.
Contio. So excited about it. We're doing a lot of very, very cool things. And the company is named after what they called big momentous meetings back in the Roman Empire. And the genesis of the company really stems back from this super long day I had in 2018 at Riskalyze. And I think I had 8 back-to-back meetings, and they were just on all kinds of different topics. And at the end of that day, I looked over at my then chief of staff, who she is still today chief operating officer at Nitrogen. Her name is Michaela Barraza, amazing human being. And I said to Michaela, I'm like, this is nuts. 4 of those meetings had horrible agendas. Those were the good meetings because the other 4 didn't even have a game plan at all. And some of these meetings we were missing the right data, and some of these meetings we were missing the right people. At all of them, we were a little bit fuzzy about what decision we were trying to make. There's so much work to do after the meeting, and it doesn't feel like the meeting itself helped the work. And all that to be said, I said, and we're one of the well-run companies. Like, how are
everybody else doing it?
companies figuring this out? And so anyway, that night I wrote this screed down in my notebook, and I'm like, we have these apps like email and calendar and to-dos. Like, why is there not an operating system for meetings? We spend half our time in these things. Like, why is there not an OS for meetings? I proceeded to do nothing about that. I was a little busy at the time, but I didn't do anything about it until after I passed the baton to Dan Zitting, our new CEO at Nitrogen, and I'm in my year off the bullet train, as we called it, in 2024. And so somewhere along the road in 2024, I'm like reading through old notebooks and things, and I run across this page, and I'm just like, holy cow, that is still an unsolved problem. And the AI revolution that is upon us actually might make it a solvable problem, because the truthful answer to my question, why is there not an operating system for meetings, is because nobody had time to use that software back in 2018, right? Because we don't have time to prep for meetings. We're running from meeting to meeting to meeting, back to back to back to back to back. We don't have time for this. And so that was my first aha moment, was like, the idea might have been great in 2018. It's 100 times more powerful in 2025, okay? And then the other thing that struck me is I'm looking out at the AI note taker world, and I'm like, okay, listen, that the part of getting notes and being more engaged in meetings, that part's great. Everybody can agree with that. That's totally great. But the thing that really struck me with the AI note takers is we'd somehow devolved into this world where 7 robots join the call, and they do absolutely nothing to make the meeting better. They just write down these notes that, frankly, too often don't even get read. And then they send us all emails about it, and that they actually don't do anything to make the meeting better. The whole vision I'd written down in 2018 was like, how do we actually make these meetings impact the work, flow into the work? And so that's what I'm really excited about. Is we have started with a very different technical architecture. We've started with a very different security architecture, and we've really built a workflow platform to drive workflow with narrative conversational data. And I'm super excited about where it's going.
Excellent. So a couple of key takeaways before we get to the actual product. First off, like all else, I too spent a disproportionate amount of my time thinking about the Roman Empire.
That was like a meme right about when I was it was time to name the company. And I'm like, well, why not? It's just so, and now all of our code repos are named after cities in Rome. All of our conference rooms are named after Roman emperors.
You got to find a theme.
That's right.
My agentic framework that I'm putting together is all named after X-Men characters.
Okay, I like it.
Every agent has a theme. It does something. I try to find something closely correlated in the characters.
I was writing the new agent for a revamped way of managing bugs, right? Like when people report bugs to us, or our team finds a bug or something like that, which is called Centurion. It's going to tell all the agents what to do to make the software run smoothly.
Oh boy, just trying to think of it. You need a writing agent. You better name it. Oh, what's his name? Seneca. No,
yeah.
Oh my God, I'm screwing myself over here. What's going on here? He had his hands nailed to the forum door by Mark Anthony.
Oh gosh, you've got me. Is that Seneca?
It was Cicero.
Cicero, yes, of course. And when it's time to kill old code and take it out of the repo, we'll just call that Julius Caesar or something like that.
I mean, you can just call it decimation.
There you go.
As long as you only kill 10% of the code, you're fine.
There you go.
So, all right, enough Roman Empire jokes. And the meeting thing's funny because you're literally describing surge meetings. But yes, let's continue on. Okay, so how are you going to solve for the problem that meetings can, AKA suck, or be just about meetings, or frankly, just not be that effective?
Yeah, one of the greatest problems we have there is we don't have any time to prepare, right? And so we walk into meetings way too cold. and with, frankly, missing a lot of elements typically. And, I look at that and go, what I really want and what I need is I need AI that just jumps in to the process and tells me what I'm missing and tells me how I should think about this and prepares for me. Now, this can look like a lot of different things. Obviously, what we built here is a very horizontal operating system for meetings, and we're building a lot of this technical architecture that is very OS-like. And that's why we've named the product MeetingOS, by the way. But the first vertical that we're very, very focused on is financial advisors. And we're building this highly specialized AI for each vertical sitting on top of MeetingOS. And for financial advisors in particular, the really low-hanging fruit is that we need better, more intelligent preparation for client reviews. And again, we're building so much depth in the concept of what preparing for a meeting looks like, what agenda items look like, how you can edit those things. We've built this very powerful, almost Google Docs-like editor for agendas. And so you can very flexibly move things around, your private talking points, your notes for that agenda item, follow those agenda items with you. You can do that in a collaborative group editor. So you can do it with your team. You can have other people in there editing with you. You can see each other making edits real time in the editor for the agenda. But then the most powerful thing is that you can literally go into the AI and just say, hey, set this up for me. Now, for client reviews, for financial advisors, it's going to very rapidly go, oh, I've got your customized template for how you, Jason, like to do client reviews with clients. And then I've got your past meeting history with those clients. And then I've also got the context of what is their performance report looking like? What is their financial plan looking like? What is their risk or portfolio analysis looking like? And I take all of that context, and what I end up with is this super powerful game plan for the meeting that absolutely brings in those elements of how I like to run meetings and absolutely brings in the elements of my meeting history with that client, but more importantly, starts to use all those data elements to guess at what the client's going to ask. Hey, the market's up 7%. The client's portfolio is only up 4.5%. You need to really emphasize the point that we decided to, in the last discussion, decided to take some risk off. And we did that. And we're actually outperforming the benchmark of up 3%. And that's a question that's probably going to get asked, and follow that up. Hey, the last time they were really nervous about this aspect of inflation impacting retirement, remind them you made these adjustments to the financial plan to impact that and make sure that they were inflation protected. These are all the things that, look, if each of us as financial advisors maybe only had 1 or 5 or 10 clients to manage, we could probably keep it all in our heads. And the reality is, Dunbar's law says that every human being can keep about 150 relationships going in their head. And by the time we take out our family and we take out our friends and our church friends and our golfing buddies and all of the different people that we have in our lives, there's not a lot of time to take 75 clients and actually keep all those relationships in our head. And then to boot, we're doing client reviews every 6 to 12 months, depending on how your practice runs. And so it's just really important to be able to, the relationship building aspect of financial advice and the client review, that whole interaction, the meeting is the value, right? If we're not putting our best foot forward with a white glove experience that shows the client how much we are paying attention to their lives and these details, frankly, they've been able to self-direct on doing a lot of the stuff that we do for years, okay? The reason they don't is because they want the comfort of that person keeping those details front of mind and making sure that the important and the complex are going to get taken care of.
Excellent. And I would agree with you, because essentially the meeting is really, like a better term, that's where you demonstrate your value. That's where you demonstrate your value in terms of being on top of things, in terms of understanding them, in terms of being there for them. So
Exactly.
the better you can equip us to be able to handle that, the better off we're going to be in terms of actually being able to deliver value.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So talk to me about some of the technical challenges in bringing this all together. We're talking about a lot of integration points, artificial
Yep.
intelligence, digesting this, context analysis. Talk to me about what it took to build what you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very interesting when you go to build a product from scratch. And there was a lot that first of all, I will say we had the inklings that writing code was going to go agentic at the beginning of this company's history. I would say that we have seen multiple order of magnitude step functions in that capability while this company has existed. So fortunately, knock on wood, I still feel very, very happy about the team that we built, because we built a team. My biggest filter was, well, I had two big filters when I built the team. One was we built for a completely in-person company.
Ironic, given you're basically doing a lot of this over Zoom, but continue.
It's true, right? But we actually said from the beginning, no, we want MeetingOS to work great for in-person meetings as well. We want it to be very, very, that's a big part of building it as an app that sits in the background on your computer instead of being a bot that joins your video calls, right? And so we really, really wanted to build it that way from moment one. But yes, I wanted an in-person culture. I know that there are a ton of people who work very, very hard from home. I know that there are zero lazy people willing to take a job that requires in-person work. It's an interesting filter from that regard, and I have really been enjoying being back. I sit in the bullpen with everybody else. I've been really enjoying being back in the phase of being able to stand up, walk over, talk to somebody for 3 minutes, and solve a problem. And I missed that a ton from the pre-COVID days, and so I've kind of got that back. So that was one filter. The other filter was like, how do you think AI is going to impact software engineering? And I wasn't looking for, there were the people who were like, it already has. I've already rebuilt my entire process around it. That was the answer a year plus ago. Okay.
Yep.
Those people hire right away. The second group was, I had people who are like, I don't know. It's just, I ask ChatGPT some questions once in a while, but it doesn't really, I don't think it's going to impact my world a whole lot. Now, to be clear, a lot of the crazy stuff that we're seeing today did not exist back then. So you can forgive those people for not being able to see the future.
Yeah. A lot of things changed in October when 3.5 dropped.
But the point is, like, they were resistant, right? It was already super helpful, and they were resisting it and going, no, I think it'll be a minor impact, but yeah, like, I'm still going to do the work. And I didn't want the resistant attitude. And so the third bucket of people in the middle, they were like, I would paraphrase it as this: I haven't had the opportunity, but I'm itching to figure out how to make this work better. Okay. And I'm like, I'll hire those people all the live long day. What you need in the AI age is hunger and curiosity, not necessarily like, find me somebody who has 10 years of experience writing agent harnesses in LLMs, right? I'm sure that's in a job description in some big corporation somewhere. 10 years of experience writing agent harnesses with LLMs.
I would call BS on that post, but continue.
Well, of course, but they've been doing it for years, right? I remember somebody saying that with JavaScript when JavaScript was like 6 years old and they wanted 10 years of experience writing JavaScript. It didn't even exist. This is a thing. It happens in big corporations. So I'm not looking for experience. I'm looking for curiosity and hunger there. And experience didn't hurt. And I did find a few people with some pretty interesting experience doing that. Here in Boise, Idaho, we have a couple of companies that have had advanced AI teams. So very, very fortunate that we've been able to pick up some amazing talent in that regard. So all that to say, the technical challenges have been, after we built that great team, they've been somewhat unexpected, frankly. One of them was, I now understand why the entire AI note-taker world built bots that join the video call. Okay. I now understand why.
Back-end provider?
Maybe I don't actually know that. Here's what I know. It is a million times harder to build software that intercepts the audio stream on your computer.
Oh, yeah.
A million times harder. We did it, but one of our guys is basically a world-class audio engineer now. He can tell you anything about audio channels, mixing audio, stereo versus mono, all the different hertz levels and blah, 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 blah. And he is a world-class audio engineer today. And it's a crack up. Who'd have thunk that we would have had to do that? I'm like, you're just tapping into the system audio, picking it up and doing the work with it. Nope. Very complicated.
Yeah. Number, I mean, just you have to contemplate and deal with the number of hardware things. Account for is just exponential.
And we're installing native apps on Mac and Windows computers. And then there are literally 100 Windows antivirus things that you have to go figure out how to whitelist on. Mac is a little bit easier, but there you go. So it's just the number of interesting technical challenges. Our security framework. So we said early on, I have not yet been proven right on this. Okay. So I want to be very clear. This is Aaron thinking to the future. Big asterisk, like Aaron prediction. There's going to be some kind of big security explosion in AI that comes from sending a lot of confidential information across the API wire to the foundation model companies who, in all candor, these companies are my partners, so I'll try and be slightly diplomatic, but I'll just say there are some of these companies that have been fined $1.5 billion for denying for years that they stole all the world's books and scanned them in to train the models.
Did you hear the latest that came out yesterday?
I'm not sure.
There's a paper that showed that basically they can be tricked into prompting the entire text of those books.
I totally believe it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if they can do that, guess what? They can be tricked into prompting on PII and other kinds of
100%.
very confidential client information, which sometimes is not obvious to the attempts to redact that PII. Okay. And so here's the deal. I said when we started this, probably before we started this, I was like, it's fine to build a contractual barrier to stop companies from training on your data. We're going to build a physical barrier. We're going to bring all that AI processing into our secure private cloud, build a physical barrier against that data ever leaving the secure private cloud until you, the user and the owner of that data, decide to plug it in and send it somewhere. So that's what we've built. A lot of people say we're dumb because we have, in an ironclad way, roped ourselves off from being able to sell data for training or things like that. And I just don't care.
I mean, let your clients know that you're selling data for training and see how well that goes.
Sure, but there's a lot of people who just think you should leave yourself some loopholes to be able to do that in, and we have just not done that. And I think as a result, like, we're going to be the secure wing of the AI revolution, and that's a big part of what we think is important. And then I would just say, like, then there's all the things around building a product that changes behaviors, and you're trying to change as few behaviors as possible, right? But like, one of those is, here's a tough one that I think we've done a really good job of threading the needle on. I really wanted to build a product that would create compounded intelligence for a firm over time, okay? And if you look at some of the products that exist out here, the default is that all the data flows back to the user. And so we said from the very beginning, hey, we're going to build something a little bit more like a data model, a little bit more like Slack, where the workspace owns the data and the user accounts are the contributors of data into the workspace. And then, of course, if you're the CEO of the firm and you need to have a sensitive HR conversation, by all means, with one click, you can turn a Contio meeting into a secret meeting, okay? And then only you and the other people that you have added to that meeting can even see that meeting exists. But by default, meetings are secured into your workspace, but they're going to be shared pieces of intelligence with the other people in your workspace after they're over. And so the really powerful thing about that is that companies, firms are now building this compounded intelligence about everything that they do. And you can imagine we're doing this internally in our company. So we will have a new feature we're going to build. And we will probably talk about the details and argue out the details of that feature across 15 different meetings, 5 of which I'm probably not in. But as our lead product guy, I can actually go to Contio and say, hey, I need you to draft me the product brief for this feature. And it will go out and synthesize all of those decisions spread across 15 different meetings, including ones that I wasn't even in, because that's all part of our compounding workspace intelligence. And it'll give me a draft document there that is really, really good. Now, I'm using some pre-release stuff with some very powerful AI prompting to generate full-blown documents, but you can imagine where we're going with this. It's really, really powerful to be able to drive workflow in that kind of way and actually have your meeting conversations flow into the work.
Yeah, and I would say it's very thoughtful what you did there, because I'd say security doesn't get considered enough in this space, especially.
Yeah.
It really doesn't.
You're so right.
Yeah, and I would say that there's a bit of an American cultural aspect to this, because other jurisdictions have much stricter privacy regulations. So we've had to think about this sort of thing. And the first thing, I get compliance questions, I get privacy questions all the time.
Yeah.
Technology up here, down there, those questions barely exist.
Right.
And I get it. You guys are more of a move fast and break things culture, but like,
Yeah.
we're a highly regulated industry, and that this does not play well.
Yeah.
But also the compounded knowledge piece is interesting, because I also look at the friction pieces towards moving between one note taker to another, and frankly, they're barely existent, right? You wipe a credit card, move another one, because all that information is going to CRM anyway, so whatever.
Yeah.
If you're throwing in a separate intelligence layer that really custodies, houses that, and provides extra insight without just tombstoning it somewhere, right?
Yep.
That is another value proposition that not everybody else has looked towards.
Yeah. We're very excited about it because, I've always believed that you don't want your moat to be lock-in, right? You want your moat to be that the product is insanely great and is delivering such incredible value for customers that they would never dream. That would be the last thing I'd ever quit. I have products like that in my life. They provide me with so much value that you can take a lot of things away from me, but if you take that away, I would probably not be there. I could not go to work for a company that makes me work on a Windows computer. I'm sorry. I just couldn't do it. You can pry
You know
my
what?
Mac
You
out
and
of
me
my
both.
cold,
You and me
dead
both.
hands. Okay.
100%.
Yeah.
I do not need my life to suck for no
No.
reason. Thank you.
No, but there's no conceivable reason why I would do that. And if the job was that compelling, I would just buy my own and never open the Windows PC that you handed me. I just would. That would be my answer to that question. So that's our aspiration. And what I would say is it is the combination, I would argue, of not just the data, because for what it's worth, we're building this like an operating system. We're building these very powerful APIs. We do not believe in locking up people's data. We want them to be able to leverage the data very powerfully across their entire AI stack the way that they want to leverage it. And we're working very deeply with partners who have full-blown access to that data. And our strategy is not to disintermediate partners. It's to really power their AI strategy and hand off work to the core workflow apps that are going to do that work, the financial planning tools, the performance tools, the trading tools, the portfolio analysis tools. I think that we're going to hand off data to those firms to do the work. My view, though, is exactly to your point. If you have compounding intelligence and you have that flywheel spinning, and it's going to be very difficult to rip out the thing that is building that intelligence for you, number one. And then if number two, you've also delivered the best experience for how to rapidly and natively leverage that intelligence to do things that actually differentiate me as a firm and make me different as a firm. See, I want to make everything standard and commoditized that does not make a difference in my client relationship. And I want to highly personalize and make very personalized the things that differentiate me in my client relationships. That's how I drive value and alpha in my firm. And so that's what we're going to equip every single wealth management firm to be able to do with MeetingOS.
Okay. Fast moving world. Hard to say.
Yeah.
You've done to date. Where do you see this all going?
Yeah. I mean, I would just say that vision that I just talked about is still unfolding. And we've got a lot more we're shipping over the next 4 to 6 weeks. We've got a lot more that we'll ship through the end of the year. We've got plans for what we'll ship next year. Now, what I will say is we've taken what is probably a 5-year vision and compressed it down to probably about a year and a half. And so
how is that possible?
Yeah, I have to give full credit to our dear friend Claude and a few of our other friends along the way. But in all jokes aside, I have to give credit to an amazing team of engineers who are frankly becoming incredibly powerful orchestrators of AI. And that, I would argue, is a future that we all need to look at. Like frankly, every financial advisor needs to understand how to be an orchestrator of their AI. That is, we're not going to do I'm sorry, we're just not going to do the manual clicking that we used to do. If you're the financial advisor that just loved being the person to click through the 16 different apps to do the 16 different things because you're quote unquote doing the work for the client, that's a job that's going away. That's not your job anymore.
Anyone who ever thought they were paid to fill out paperwork or paid to fill out like that was a value proposition, sorry, that's not a value proposition. That is a process issue that will be resolved over time.
That's right. That's right. And it's going to get resolved faster and faster and faster. And it's amazing what the technology is able to do. That being said, one of the things that I think is very true, and I think it's going to be true for a long, long time, like the conceivable future, is that we're going to need humans to actually run the AI. Okay. It's very interesting. I posted earlier today, we're getting some great traction with organic social media. I want to pour some fuel on that fire. And I'm like, I need a strategist who really understands how to harness the X and LinkedIn algorithms at a powerful level, going beyond the audience that I've built, right? And multiplying that and compounding that. And I want to find that kind of strategist, like who's really great at that I should talk with. And I've had several friends since I posted that this morning text me and they're like, hello, just use AI. And I'm like, okay, I hear you. Yes. And I have done a lot of that and I've gotten a lot out of it. But the reality is it takes time to be the quarterback telling AI what plays to go run. Okay. And I need to tell the AI what to do for the product function in our company, for the go-to-market function in our company, for the strategy function in our company. I am the orchestrator of AI for a bunch of things affecting our company. And I've just decided to outsource this one. Turns out humans are actually smart, effective humans who can harness AI are actually insanely valuable. And I'm going to pay some decent money to one to do that piece for me.
This, again, we talked about, I talked briefly about the agentic framework I'm putting together with like,
yes,
currently 56 different agents. Now, all of them haven't been fully audited yet. They can grow as they basically, as I came up ideas for teams and I started assigning resources.
Yeah.
But my dev team is almost fully done now. My marketing team, my marketing and
Wow.
finance teams are the ones being knocked out later, or being knocked as we speak. And
Yeah.
fine tuning that and making sure it works to the point where I can just command and hand off is work. But
Yeah.
once it gets there, it's, man, it is crazy already, the stuff that's happening. But I get you. You have to do the work initially. You can outsource the work initially. So 3 questions to end on a positive note, which you've been hit with twice before. So let's see what your answers are. First question. If you had one wish for something to change in your company or the industry as a whole, what would it be?
I don't know, fortunately or unfortunately, I've been known for a few things, but I've never been known for my memory. So I have no idea how I answered that question last time I was on the show. So no clue. So if there's something I could change in my company or in the industry, what would it be? Here's maybe I told you I have no ability to be non-transparent. I clearly have no poker face. You knew I was going to pass the baton a week before I announced it a couple of years ago. Here's my very transparent answer. If I could wave a magic wand, there would be way more financial advisors in our industry who would be highly strategic about investing in their businesses. I feel like we have a bunch of them. They're really good at investing in their businesses. They're great. They think about things strategically and they're willing to be aggressive and make investments in their businesses. Equally so, there are a lot of financial advisors who frankly just don't think about the world that way. Some of these financial advisors, I will sit down with them and talk to them and gently, and they'll invite me. They'll say, give it to me. Give me some straight feedback. I'll be like, I don't know if you realize this. Financial advice is probably the only business where the leader of that firm thinks that they just have a God-given right to these massive gross margins, and they don't actually have to spend any money to make this business work and build it and compound its value proposition to its clients. Okay.
And earn 6 figures out the gate.
Right. And effectively, the mindset of a few too many people in our industry is I can't spend that money on technology or on people or on client experience. That's my money. Sorry, in a lot of other businesses, I don't know if you know this, but there's this thing called a cost of goods sold. BlackRock doesn't charge the cost of goods sold on top of your revenue for those other industries, right? That's not how that works. You actually have to pay your cost of goods sold, and then you have to invest in your business to actually make your business better. So all I can say is we have some people who don't think strategically about that. I've tried to do my part of sharing that message. We have a lot of people who do think strategically about that. But if I was to think about a way to wave the magic wand, we would have way more strategic financial advisors thinking about investing in the business of financial advice and making it better for clients.
So many points that can be expanded on that, like the entire, not being able to separate out the operator from business owner compensation in your mind.
Yes.
Not maintaining proper financial statements to even be able to do that.
Yes.
Looking at people as expenses as opposed to resources.
Yes.
Or just never mind the biggest problem, which is I'm just going to do it however I please today. And you meet with 2 to 3 different clients to get 3 different answers. They're completely different. The lack of standardization. No company, you want to be successful, you do what all companies have done.
That's right.
They invest, they financially monitor, and you just do that. That's that saying, you look into the saying of it's easier to 10x than it is to 2x. 2x, you don't have to change. Just keep on doing what you're doing. 10x, you got to put in place the frameworks and decisions and everything else that a 10x company has. And that's the thing that actually lets them 10x.
Yeah. And part and parcel, part of this is just our business model. And I don't know, even with a magic wand, if frankly, this would change with some aspects of the industry, because I still remember this is very early, right? I am new to the era of financial advice. This is probably 2013. We've rolled Riskalyze out of beta. I am the salesperson. I am the only salesperson Riskalyze has. My first 2 or 3 calls, I'm talking about how it can keep you out of compliance hot water. And I quickly realized that absolutely nobody wants to buy a compliance insurance policy because they're not the advisor that is ever going to have a compliance problem.
How is that going to happen to them?
And so I'm like, okay, so I shift course and I start talking about, which I truly believe in, Riskalyze can help you grow. And I'm showing them evidence that Riskalyze can help them grow. And that is just going great. Okay. We're probably on call number 7 and I am batting 6 for 7. And I'm like, okay, I think I've got
to make more money because
here.
of you. Yes. I want more revenue.
Until I hit the guy who was probably late 60s is my guess. I will remember this until the day I die. And he says to me over the phone, he goes, son, I could use another client like I could use a hole in the head. And I thought about that statement for a second. I'm like, what? And then it clicked. This guy has built a very successful book of business. He's in his late 60s. He's on cruise control. I'm sure he's doing a fine job for the clients he has. They would be leaving him if not. There's no contract. They can ACAT that money out of there, faster than anything if he's not doing a good job. So I'm sure he's doing a good job for them. But he is absolutely not trying to grow. I quickly pivoted in my head right then, and I said, what if I could show you a way that Riskalyze could get you out on the golf course every day by 2:30 guaranteed? He goes, son, now you're talking. And then I showed him how if you set good risk expectations, they won't call you at 4 o'clock and make you miss your tea time because the market is down 4%. Am I okay? And he was like, this is brilliant. I'm in, and became one of our clients. But that's the deal. We actually have a lot of people who do not want to grow their businesses. And so that somewhat is a little bit systemic to the business model of financial advice. And all I can say is we need more strategic ones investing in the profession so that we can grow as a profession. I think we need that.
The problem is they're swallowing up everybody else.
That is true.
That was the longest we ever spent on that answer. So that's awesome. Second question. What's the biggest challenge in getting the company to where it is today?
So far or in the future?
So far.
Man, the biggest challenge to get our company where it has been today has just been the sheer quantity of engineering we had to do just to establish the table stakes of the vision. And we decided we were going to ship the table stakes. Does that make us wildly different from other approaches? No. Honestly, you can get AI-powered notes from meetings a lot of different ways. If you want to do it in the financial advice space with really powerful AI preparation for your meetings that goes beyond a couple of bullet points to remind you of the client's kids' names, we're going to be amazing, like 10x better. If you want to do it with a bot-free white glove experience, we're going to be 10x better. If you want to do it with the peace of mind that we have, frankly, way more advanced security and privacy for your client data than shipping it across the API wire to the foundation model companies, we can do that better than anybody else on the planet. But at the end of the day, the output you're getting kind of looks the same. We think it's a little bit better, but in honesty, it kind of looks the same. It's the next piece of the vision that is really, I think, going to create capabilities that nobody has ever seen before in the financial advice space. And I'm really excited to get to that phase.
Excellent. And the last question is, what keeps you excited and engaged to keep on getting up in the morning and fight the good fight?
The opportunity, I keep telling the team that a lot of people said that, hey, you built a successful company. Like, why would you do this again? Hello, have you not heard that you can go off and do a little bit of boards and consulting and like never have to work a real job ever again? Have you not heard this? And I'm like, I have. And it was incredibly kind to have people like make those kinds of offers for me and things like that. And I felt, you know what? I'm 47 years old. I absolutely have the energy and the passion to build something that is impactful on the world. And the idea that we could really build something that turns what gets said into what gets done gets me really excited. The idea that we could have a bunch fewer broken meetings in the world and actually have the work that we do in meetings flow into the work gets me really excited. And so really what gets me up every morning is like just getting to see the impact it makes on people.
Fantastic. Aaron, thank you so much for taking the time.
What a blast. Thanks for having me.
So that was Aaron Klein of now Contio. If you are looking for something that makes your meetings suck less, by all means, check them out. And as always, if you like this podcast, then please leave a review on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, take care.
This podcast was brought to you by Woodgate Financial, an award-winning financial planning firm catering to high net worth individuals and their families. To learn more, go to woodgate.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, or find more episodes at jasonpereira.ca.